Discussion on verses 1 to 12 of 12. Islam, as a complete and divinely revealed way of life, consistently links worldly matters, such as marriage, family disputes, financial dealings, and social conduct, to obedience to Allah, the Exalted. Throughout the Holy Quran, Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear that His guidance governs every situation a person encounters, whether outwardly worldly or explicitly religious. Nothing in a Muslim's life falls outside the scope of divine instruction. For this reason, one must avoid the ignorant assumption that Allah, the Exalted, only cares about ritual acts such as the obligatory prayers while overlooking how a person behaves in their home, workplace, or community. Every circumstance a person faces will be brought before them on the Day of Judgment, and they will be questioned about how they conducted themselves in each situation. This makes it essential for a Muslim to learn and act upon Islamic teachings, so that their behavior aligns with what Allah, the Exalted, expects in every moment of their life. Doing so ensures a harmonious mental and physical state, allowing a person to place everything and everyone in their proper position, while preparing themselves for their ultimate accountability. Such conduct leads to tranquility in both worlds. A Muslim must therefore avoid treating Islam like a garment that is worn or removed according to personal desires. The one who behaves in this manner is not truly following divine guidance, but is instead worshipping their own desires, even if they claim otherwise. Chapter 25 Al-Furqan, verse 43.
Have you seen the one who takes as his God his own desire?
When a person fails to apply Islamic teachings consistently in every situation, they inevitably misuse the blessings they have been granted. This leads to an unbalanced mental and physical condition, causing them to misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities. Such a person also fails to prepare adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. As a result, they experience stress, instability, and hardship in both worlds, even if they enjoy certain worldly comforts. True peace is found only when one allows Islam to shape every aspect of life, not when it is selectively applied according to personal preference. One must therefore avoid picking and choosing which Islamic teachings to follow and which to ignore based on personal desires, as this selective approach inevitably leads to difficulty in both worlds. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 1.
O Prophet, when you Muslims divorce women, divorce them for the commencement of their waiting period, and keep count of the waiting period and fear Allah your Lord.
The waiting period before a divorce is finalized carries profound wisdom and offers numerous benefits that protect both spouses from emotional, social, and spiritual harm. Its primary purpose is to allow the intense emotions surrounding marital conflict to settle, so that both husband and wife can reflect with clarity rather than reacting impulsively. When anger cools and hurt softens, people often see matters differently and may recognize that reconciliation is better for their family, their children, and their own long-term well-being. Without this pause, many divorces occur in moments of heightened emotion, and once the words are spoken, pride or embarrassment prevents people from reconsidering, even when they later realize that separation was not the best choice. The waiting period therefore shields them from decisions made in haste and the deep regret that often follows. This period also ensures that any pregnancy becomes known and is not concealed. The husband has a right to know whether his wife is pregnant before deciding whether to proceed with the divorce or reconcile, and the child has a right to be born into clarity rather than confusion. The waiting period protects these rights and prevents injustice. Beyond this, the waiting period gives both spouses time to reflect on their own behavior, identify what went wrong, and consider how they might improve if reconciliation occurs. It encourages self-examination rather than blame, humility rather than stubbornness, and thoughtful communication rather than emotional reaction. These qualities are essential for a healthy marriage, and often emerge only when people are given time to think calmly. The waiting period also protects individuals from rushing into another marriage while still emotionally unsettled. Entering a new marriage without healing or clarity often leads to further instability, repeating the same mistakes, or forming relationships based on emotional rebound rather than genuine compatibility. The waiting period therefore acts as a safeguard against compounding harm. It also provides families, especially children, with time to adjust emotionally, understand what is happening, and prepare for the possibility of change. Sudden divorce can destabilize children, but a gradual process allows for gentler transitions and more thoughtful decisions about custody, living arrangements, and emotional support. Finally, the waiting period gives space for wise family members or mediators to intervene, offer advice, and help the couple reconcile if possible. Many marriages have been saved through calm counsel offered during this time, counsel that would have been impossible if divorce were immediate. All these benefits demonstrate that Islamic teachings are designed to protect individuals from the consequences of impulsive decisions and emotional reactions. They also reinforce the principle that one must follow Islam consistently, not selectively. This is further supported by the fact that Allah, the Exalted, connects his obedience to ensuring the waiting period is completed correctly. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 1.
And fear Allah your Lord.
Despite modern claims of championing women's rights, it was Allah the Exalted who established and safeguarded the rights of women through Islamic teachings more than 1400 years ago. These rights were not reactionary social reforms, but divinely legislated protections designed to preserve dignity, security, and justice in all circumstances, including the emotionally sensitive situation of divorce. One profound example is found in chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 1.
Do not turn them out of their houses, nor should they themselves leave during that period, unless they are committing a clear immorality.
This command refers to the waiting period after a revocable divorce. During this time, the husband is strictly prohibited from expelling his wife from the marital home, and she is likewise instructed not to leave without a valid reason. What is remarkable is that Allah, the Exalted, refers to the residents as their homes, attributing the home to the wives even though, in many cases, legal ownership may belong to the husband. This wording elevates the woman's status and reinforces her right to security and stability. It emphasizes that marriage grants her not only emotional companionship, but also recognized residential rights. If a husband finds it difficult to remain in the same home during the waiting period, then he should remove himself rather than force his wife to leave, even if the property is legally his. This demonstrates the depth of divine justice. Ownership does not override moral responsibility. Allah, the Exalted, temporarily attributes the home to the wife to protect her dignity, emotional well-being, and social standing during a vulnerable time. There are many layers of wisdom behind this command. Divorce often occurs in moments of emotional intensity, anger, disappointment, hurt, or misunderstanding. The waiting period is not merely a legal technicality. It is a structured opportunity for reflection and reconciliation, provided it is not the third and final divorce. Living under the same roof allows emotions to settle. When daily life resumes, meals, shared responsibilities, familiar routines, the couple may begin to reassess their decision with greater clarity. Distance often magnifies anger, while proximity can soften hearts. Remaining in the same home also allows meaningful conversation to occur naturally. Small discussions that might not happen in formal mediation can take place. They may rediscover qualities they previously overlooked. Observing one another's daily contributions, managing the household, caring for children, maintaining responsibilities, can remind each spouse of the practical and emotional value the other brings to the marriage. Often during conflict, attention shifts to faults while virtues are forgotten. The waiting period restores perspective. Furthermore, staying in the marital home protects the couple's privacy. If the wife immediately returns to her parents or relatives, the matter often becomes public, inviting commentary, criticism, or emotional interference. External involvement can escalate tensions rather than resolve them. By remaining together, the couple retains control over their situation and may choose, if necessary, to invite wise and experienced relatives to mediate in a structured and respectful manner. This controlled involvement increases the likelihood of genuine reconciliation. There are also psychological consequences if a wife leaves prematurely. Returning to her parents' home may initially feel comforting and liberating. She may experience temporary emotional support, reduced responsibilities, and sympathy from family members. However, this environment can create unrealistic expectations. The temporary comfort does not reflect the long-term reality of life after divorce. Once the divorce is finalized, feelings of loneliness, instability, and uncertainty may arise, especially as parents age or pass away and other relatives move on with their lives and families. The earlier comfort may have clouded objective decision-making. Similarly, if she later wishes to reconcile, social dynamics can complicate matters. The husband may feel publicly embarrassed or pressured by community opinion. Pride and external judgment may prevent reconciliation that might otherwise have occurred had the matter remained private. Thus, premature departure can unintentionally close doors that divine wisdom intended to keep open during the waiting period. One additional wisdom is financial protection. During the waiting period, the husband remains financially responsible for his wife. If she were expelled from the home, she could immediately face economic vulnerability, especially if she has no independent income. By remaining in the marital home, her right to maintenance is reinforced practically, not just theoretically. She is not left scrambling for shelter or dependent upon relatives who may themselves be under strain. This prevents financial pressure from influencing her decisions about reconciliation or final separation. Another wisdom relates to emotional stability. Divorce is not only a legal event, it is an emotional shock. Sudden displacement from one's home can intensify feelings of rejection, humiliation, or abandonment. Remaining in familiar surroundings reduces trauma and provides continuity during a fragile period. Stability in environment often supports clarity in thought. A person who feels secure is more capable of making balanced decisions than one who feels displaced or rejected. There is also wisdom concerning children. If the couple has children, maintaining the same household during the waiting period protects them from immediate disruption. Children are deeply affected by sudden separation. When both parents remain in the home, routines continue, schooling remains uninterrupted, and emotional shock is softened. Furthermore, seeing their parents coexist respectfully during this time may increase the chances of reconciliation and reduces the likelihood of long-term psychological harm to the children. Another wisdom is the preservation of the woman's reputation. In many societies, when a woman leaves her marital home abruptly, rumors can spread. People may speculate about fault, character, or conduct. By commanding that she remain unless there is clear immorality, Allah the Exalted shields her from unnecessary suspicion. The wording of the verse itself places honor upon her by attributing the home to her, reinforcing that she is not a disposable occupant, but a rightful member of the household. There is also wisdom in restraining impulsive behavior. In moments of anger, a husband might use expulsion as a tool of punishment or emotional manipulation. The divine command removes this possibility. It prevents divorce from becoming an instrument of humiliation or control. The husband cannot command her to leave as an expression of dominance. The verse curbs ego-driven reactions and forces a measured process instead of emotional escalation. There is also a spiritual wisdom. Remaining in the same space encourages reflection. Each spouse has time to consider their own shortcomings, rather than focusing solely on the faults of the other. Physical separation often strengthens a narrative of self-justification. Continued proximity, however, can soften pride and encourage accountability. In this way, the ruling nurtures humility and self-correction. Another subtle wisdom is that it prevents external influences from dominating the decision. When one spouse moves out, family and friends often become heavily involved, sometimes fueling resentment instead of reconciliation. By maintaining the marital environment, the decision remains primarily between the couple. If outside help is sought, it is done deliberately and with structure, not as a result of emotional flight. Furthermore, the command protects long-term social stability. Divorce affects extended families, property arrangements, and community dynamics. A structured and calm waiting period minimizes unnecessary conflict and reduces hostility between families. It allows separation, if it must occur, to happen with dignity rather than bitterness. Finally, the verse highlights that Islamic teachings treat marriage as a serious covenant, not a temporary contract that can be discarded in anger. The waiting period within the home communicates that reconciliation is valued, that dignity must be preserved, and that decisions affecting lives should not be made impulsively. When all these dimensions are considered, financial, emotional, psychological, social, spiritual, and communal, it becomes evident that this single command reflects comprehensive wisdom. It demonstrates that Allah, the Exalted, legislates with complete knowledge of human behavior and long-term consequences, ensuring that even in separation there is justice, mercy, and protection. Ultimately, this command reflects a broader principle. Divine guidance is not merely spiritual instruction, but comprehensive life regulation that safeguards dignity, emotional well-being, and social stability. The one who reflects sincerely on these rulings recognizes that they are not restrictive, but protective, designed to preserve honor, reduce regret, and promote thoughtful decision-making rather than impulsive separation. Allah, the Exalted, again connects the handling of marriage matters with obedience to Him, even though marriage appears to many as a purely worldly concern. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 1.
And those are the limits set by Allah. And whoever transgresses the limits of Allah has certainly wronged himself.
Crossing the limits set by Allah, the Exalted, whether those limits relate to worship, family life, financial dealings, or any other worldly or religious matter, only results in self-harm. When a person disregards divine boundaries, they inevitably fall into the misuse of the blessings they have been granted. This leads to an unbalanced mental and physical state, causing them to misplace priorities, relationships, and responsibilities. Such a person also fails to prepare adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment, as they have allowed their desires to dictate their behavior rather than divine guidance. The outcome of this approach is stress, instability, and hardship in both worlds, even if they enjoy certain worldly comforts. True tranquility is found only when one respects the limits set by Allah, the Exalted, and allows His guidance to shape every aspect of life. After commanding the married couple to remain living together during the waiting period, Allah, the Exalted, reminds people that His instructions carry countless benefits, some of which have been discussed earlier, and therefore they must adhere to them for their own sake. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 1.
You know not, perhaps Allah will bring about after that a different matter.
In pre-Islamic Arabia, a husband could take his wife back an unlimited number of times during her waiting period, trapping her indefinitely in a cycle of separation and return. A wife could be kept suspended for years, neither fully married nor fully divorced, because the husband's authority had no boundaries. Allah, the Exalted, abolished this injustice by setting a clear limit. A husband may only take his wife back twice during her waiting period. After that, he must either remain with her in a dignified, respectful manner or separate from her with honor. Chapter 2 Al-Baqarah, verse 229.
Divorces twice. Then after that, either keep her in an acceptable manner or release her with good treatment.
And chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 2.
And when they have nearly fulfilled their term, either retain them according to acceptable terms or part with them according to acceptable terms. And bring to witness 2 just men from among you, and establish the testimony for Allah.
These verses not only restrict the husband's authority, but also elevate the wife's dignity, by ensuring she is never left in a state of uncertainty. The command to treat the spouse well is directed explicitly at the husband, which naturally includes the wife treating her husband well, but places the primary responsibility on the husband to initiate fairness, kindness, and reconciliation. This reflects the broader Islamic principle that leadership comes with accountability. It is remarkable that in our time, many wives complain that their husbands show little enthusiasm for resolving marital issues or seeking outside help, such as counseling, even though Allah, the Exalted, has indicated that the husband should be the one most eager to repair the marriage, even if this requires involving others for guidance and mediation. The benefits of these divine limits extend far beyond preventing injustice. They protect the emotional well-being of both spouses by preventing impulsive decisions driven by anger or pride. They ensure that reconciliation, if it occurs, is based on calm reflection rather than pressure or confusion. They safeguard the rights of children by preventing instability, and repeated cycles of separation. They protect the woman from being used as a tool for manipulation or control. They also ensure that if divorce becomes necessary, it occurs with dignity, clarity, and fairness rather than chaos and resentment. Maintaining good treatment, whether one chooses to remain married or to separate, becomes far easier when a person treats their spouse in the same way they would want their own beloved family member to be treated by their spouse. This simple principle softens the heart, restrains injustice, and encourages empathy. It transforms marital conduct from self-centeredness to compassion, from reaction to reflection, and from pride to humility. When both spouses adopt this mindset, they protect themselves from regret, preserve their dignity, and fulfill the limits set by Allah the Exalted, which are designed for their benefit in both worlds. Allah the Exalted again links the treatment of one's spouse, especially during moments of marital tension or divorce, to belief in Him and accountability on the Day of Judgment, even though marriage appears to many as a purely worldly matter. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 2.
That is instructed to whoever should believe in Allah and the Last Day.
This repeated connection between worldly situations and obedience to Allah the Exalted serves as a reminder that His guidance governs every circumstance a person faces, whether outwardly worldly or explicitly religious. A believer must therefore allow divine teachings to shape their conduct in every interaction and with every blessing they encounter. When a person consistently applies Islamic teachings in all situations, they achieve a balanced mental and physical state, correctly place everything and everyone within their life, and prepare themselves adequately for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. Such behavior naturally leads to tranquility in both worlds. This principle becomes especially important during times of hardship, such as marital conflict or divorce. When one fears Allah the Exalted and acts according to His guidance even in emotionally charged moments, they are promised relief, clarity, and a path forward, even when the situation appears impossible. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 2.
And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him a way out.
This divine promise is not limited to marital matters. It applies to every difficulty a person faces. Yet it is essential to recognize that divine assistance does not always align with personal desires or expectations. Allah the Exalted grants support according to His boundless knowledge and perfect wisdom. His help is never arbitrary, nor is it delayed without purpose. It arrives at the most beneficial moment and in the most suitable form for each individual. At times, the wisdom behind this assistance remains hidden, yet it continues to operate with flawless precision, shaping outcomes in ways that ultimately serve the person's best interests. What may appear as a delay, a trial, or even a deprivation is often, in reality, a form of hidden mercy and guidance. Divine aid is not measured by fleeting desires or limited human understanding. A person may long for a specific outcome, yet Allah the Exalted may withhold it because it would harm them in ways they cannot foresee. Conversely, He may grant relief in a form they did not expect, opening doors they never imagined. By entrusting themselves to His perfect decree, individuals cultivate patience, humility, and reliance upon Him. This strengthens their inner state and ensures that they remain recipients of His assistance in both this world and the hereafter. When a person approaches every situation, whether joyful or painful, worldly or religious, with obedience to Allah the Exalted, they anchor their life in stability and clarity. Their heart becomes calm, their decisions become wise, and their path becomes illuminated by divine guidance. This is the true meaning of fearing Allah the Exalted in all circumstances, and it is the key to peace of mind in both worlds. As obtaining lawful provision is one of the greatest sources of stress for people, such as a wife fearing the loss of financial support after divorce, Allah the Exalted reassures them that He will provide for the one who remains obedient to Him, granting peace of mind even in the midst of difficulty. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 3.
And will provide for him from where he does not expect.
A person must recognize that since Allah the Exalted alone controls the affairs of the universe, their responsibility is to obey Him in every situation by using the blessings He has granted in the manner outlined in Islamic teachings. When they do this, and when they firmly believe that everything Allah the Exalted chooses for them is ultimately best, even if the wisdom behind it is not immediately clear, they will be granted their necessities, relief and tranquility. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 3.
And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. Allah has already set for everything a decreed extent.
In general, trusting in Allah, the Exalted, involves using the lawful means and resources He has provided, while accepting that the final outcome rests with Him. It is not passive abandonment of effort, nor is it blind reliance without action. Rather, it is a balanced approach. A person uses the means available to them in a manner consistent with Islamic teachings, and then accepts whatever Allah, the Exalted, decrees as the best outcome for them. For example, a sick person should take the lawful medicines available to them, seek appropriate treatment, and then accept whether their health improves or not, knowing that Allah, the Exalted, has chosen what is ultimately best for them. Therefore, trusting in Allah, the Exalted, never involves neglecting the resources He has provided. Instead, it involves using them responsibly while placing one's heart in His care. This understanding protects a person from despair when worldly means appear limited, and from arrogance when worldly means appear abundant. It cultivates a stable inner state, allowing them to face uncertainty with calmness and to navigate hardship with clarity. When a person combines lawful effort with sincere reliance on Allah, the Exalted, they experience a unique form of peace, one that is not dependent on circumstances but rooted in trust. This is the foundation of true tranquility in both worlds. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 3.
And whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. Allah has already set for everything a decreed extent.
In a hadith recorded in Sahih Muslim, number 6748, the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, taught that Allah, the Exalted, decreed every creature's provision and all matters concerning them 50,000 years before the creation of the heavens and the earth. This establishes that what a person receives in life is not random, nor is it the result of human power alone. It is part of a divine plan written long before their existence. Every situation a person faces, including the pursuit of their provision, contains two distinct dimensions. The first is the aspect that Allah, the Exalted, has already determined. This is destiny, and it unfolds exactly as He has written. No effort, no opposition, and no circumstance can prevent what He has decreed from reaching a person. Because this dimension lies entirely outside human control, it is unreasonable to burden oneself with anxiety over it. Worrying does not alter destiny. It only disturbs one's inner peace. This decree includes the minimum provision a person needs to remain alive. As long as they live, they will continue to receive what has been written for them, and nothing, not even their own actions, can deprive them of it. The second dimension is a person's own effort. This is the area in which they have full responsibility and influence. A person must use the means Allah, the Exalted, has placed at their disposal, such as their strength, skills, opportunities, and intellect, to fulfill His commands, avoid His prohibitions, and meet the challenges of life with patience. This includes striving to earn lawful provision to meet their needs and the needs of those who depend on them, while avoiding unlawful sources of income, wastefulness, extravagance, and harmful excess. When a person uses the means available to them in a manner consistent with divine guidance, they have fulfilled their duty, regardless of the outcome. In summary, a person should not waste their energy worrying about matters they cannot influence. Instead, they should focus on what lies within their control, using the means they possess in accordance with Islamic teachings. They must avoid falling into extremes, neither adopting passivity by expecting destiny to deliver everything without effort, nor assuming that their own efforts alone determine outcomes. The correct balance is to strive for lawful provision through permissible means, while relying on the guarantee of Allah, the Exalted. This reliance protects a person from impatience, prevents them from seeking wealth through unlawful avenues, and anchors their heart in tranquility. This balanced approach is what Allah, the Exalted, has commanded, and it is the path that leads to stability, dignity, and peace of mind. Allah, the Exalted, provides further instruction regarding the waiting period in divorce and again connects this seemingly worldly matter to obedience, accountability, and the promise of relief. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 4.
And those who no longer expect menstruation among your women, if you doubt, then their period is 3 months, and also for those who have not menstruated. And for those who are pregnant, their term is until they give birth. And whoever fears Allah, He will make for him of his matter ease.
It is essential to recognize that Allah, the Exalted, has never promised that accepting Islam and obeying Him, by correctly using the blessings He has granted according to Islamic teachings, will spare a person from difficulties in this world. This life has been designated as a place of trials, and therefore every individual will inevitably experience both ease and hardship. These alternating conditions serve to distinguish the sincere from the insincere, revealing who remains steadfast in their devotion and who turns away when tested. Trials are not a sign of divine displeasure. They are part of the divine system that refines character, strengthens resolve, and exposes the true state of the heart. Although hardship is universal, Allah, the Exalted, promises that those who sincerely and consistently obey Him, by utilizing His blessings in ways pleasing to Him, will attain peace of mind in both worlds. Such individuals develop a balanced state of mind and body, learning to place everything and everyone in their rightful place within their lives. This inner harmony enables them to face challenges with patience, clarity, and resilience. They do not collapse under pressure, nor do they become arrogant in times of ease. Instead, they remain steady, knowing that every situation is an opportunity to draw closer to Allah, the Exalted, and prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. It is therefore a grave mistake to adopt the ignorant attitude that merely declaring faith in Allah, the Exalted, or even performing outward acts of obedience, guarantees that this world will transform into a paradise. The true paradise is reserved for the hereafter, while this world remains a field of cultivation and testing. Just as a farmer must endure the toil of planting, watering, and protecting crops before reaping the harvest, so too must a person endure the trials of life before attaining the eternal reward. The wisdom of trials lies not in depriving people of comfort, but in refining their character, strengthening their faith, and distinguishing the steadfast from the heedless. Those who understand this reality do not despair in hardship, nor become complacent in ease. They remain constant in their devotion, knowing that Allah, the Exalted, will grant them peace of mind despite the difficulties they face, and will reward them without limit in the hereafter. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 5.
That is the command of Allah which He has sent down to you, and whoever fears Allah, He will remove for him his misdeeds and make great for him his reward.
Despite repeatedly linking worldly matters, such as behavior during marital difficulties and divorce, to His obedience, Allah, the Exalted, makes it clear that He does not demand perfection from people. What He expects is not a life free from shortcomings, but a life defined by sincere effort, using the blessings He has granted in accordance with Islamic teachings, striving to obey Him to the best of one's ability, and returning to Him whenever a mistake is made. Human beings are created with weaknesses, and falling into error is part of their nature. The true danger lies not in committing a sin, but in persisting in it without remorse, without repentance, and without any intention to change. A person who sins but immediately feels regret, seeks forgiveness, and strives to improve is far closer to divine mercy than one who outwardly appears righteous yet feels no need to repent. Repentance reflects humility, awareness, and recognition of one's dependence on Allah, the Exalted. When a person adopts this attitude of sincere striving and regular repentance, Allah, the Exalted, promises forgiveness, mercy, and inner tranquility. Such individuals experience peace of mind in this world because they are not crushed by guilt nor deceived by arrogance. They live with balance, acknowledging their weaknesses while continually working to improve. They also live with hope for salvation in the next world, because they know that Allah, the Exalted, accepts the efforts of those who turn to Him with sincerity. This combination of effort, humility, and repentance creates a heart that is soft, aware, and at peace, enabling a person to navigate life's challenges without despair and to face their shortcomings without losing hope. Allah, the Exalted, reiterates His earlier command not to expel one's wife from the family home during the waiting period, and further clarifies that she must be provided for according to the same standard the husband provides for himself, thereby safeguarding her dignity and rights. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
Lodge them in a section of where you dwell out of your means.
Allah, the Exalted, then issues a strict warning to the husband not to mistreat his wife during this period, whether through emotional pressure, financial restriction, or any form of behavior intended to make her life so difficult that she feels compelled to leave the home. Such conduct may deceive outsiders into thinking she abandoned her marital home without justification, but Allah, the Exalted, knows the truth of every situation and will hold the husband accountable for his oppression and disobedience. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
And do not harm them in order to cause constriction upon them.
This instruction reflects a profound shift from pre-Islamic norms, where women were often left vulnerable during marital disputes. By commanding that a wife remain in the marital home and be maintained at the husband's standard of living, Allah, the Exalted, protects her from humiliation, homelessness, and financial insecurity. It also prevents the husband from using the waiting period as a tool of manipulation, either to force her out or to pressure her into decisions she would not make under fair conditions. These commands also highlight the moral weight placed upon the husband's conduct during a time when emotions may be heightened. A husband is not permitted to weaponize his authority, nor to use the waiting period as an opportunity for revenge, control, or punishment. Instead, he is required to uphold justice, compassion, and dignity, even if the marriage is ending. This ensures that the waiting period becomes a time of reflection, fairness, and potential reconciliation, not a period of suffering or coercion. By tying these instructions to his obedience, Allah, the Exalted, reminds people that their behavior in worldly matters, especially in moments of conflict, reveals the true state of their character. Treating one's spouse with dignity during a difficult time is not merely a social expectation. It is an act of worship and a demonstration of one's awareness of divine accountability. When a person upholds these commands, they protect their own spiritual state, maintain inner balance, and prepare themselves for the day of judgment. When they violate these limits, they harm no one more than themselves, for oppression in any form returns to the oppressor. This has been warned in a hadith recorded in Sahih Muslim, number 6579, which explains that an oppressor will be compelled to give their good deeds to those whom they wronged, and if those good deeds are exhausted, they will bear the sins of their victims until justice is fully established. This manifestation of divine justice may ultimately result in the individual being cast into hell, despite the good deeds they had performed. Allah, the Exalted, gives particular attention to the needs of a pregnant wife during her waiting period, recognizing that pregnancy intensifies the emotional and physical strain of marital difficulties and divorce. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
And if they should be pregnant, then spend on them until they give birth.
This command obligates the husband to provide fully for his pregnant wife throughout the waiting period, ensuring that neither she nor the unborn child is left vulnerable. This provision is not limited to food and shelter. It includes all necessities that pregnancy requires. Medicines, nutritional needs, and emotional support fall under this obligation. It also includes the husband making himself available when she requests assistance for medical appointments, scans, or hospital visits, as pregnancy often demands regular monitoring and can involve sudden complications. By placing this responsibility on the husband, Allah, the Exalted, protects the wife from neglect at a time when she is most in need of stability and care. Allah, the Exalted, then extends this justice to the period after childbirth. If the wife chooses to breastfeed the child and agrees to do so, the husband must compensate her fairly for this service. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
And if they breastfeed for you, then give them their payment.
Breastfeeding is a demanding commitment that affects a woman physically, emotionally, and psychologically. It requires time, energy, and sacrifice, often impacting her sleep, mobility, and overall well-being. By obligating the husband to pay a fair wage if she chooses to breastfeed, Allah, the Exalted, acknowledges the value of her labor and ensures she is not taken for granted. This instruction prevents the assumption that she must breastfeed without compensation simply because she is the mother. Instead, Islam treats her contribution as meaningful work that deserves recognition and payment. These commands collectively demonstrate the depth of divine justice. They ensure that a woman is not abandoned, pressured, or exploited during one of the most delicate phases of her life. They also remind the husband that his responsibilities do not end with the pronouncement of divorce. He remains accountable for the welfare of his wife and child until all obligations are fulfilled. This transforms the waiting period from a time of vulnerability into a time of protection, dignity, and fairness, reflecting the comprehensive mercy and wisdom of Allah the Exalted. Allah the Exalted recognizes that matters involving pregnancy and breastfeeding require thoughtful, coordinated decision-making between husband and wife. These are not issues that can be handled unilaterally, because both parents have rights, responsibilities, and emotional investment in the well-being of the child. For this reason, Allah the Exalted commands them to consult one another and make decisions collectively, ensuring that neither parent imposes their will unjustly. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
And confer among yourselves in the acceptable way.
This instruction establishes a principle of mutual respect and cooperation. Even in the midst of divorce, when emotions may be strained, Allah the Exalted requires both parents to communicate with fairness, dignity, and sincerity. Decisions about pregnancy, childbirth, and the early upbringing of a child must be shaped by shared consultation rather than dominance or neglect. This protects the rights of the mother, the father, and most importantly, the child, who benefits most when both parents act with wisdom and restraint. Allah the Exalted then provides a practical solution for situations in which agreement cannot be reached. If the husband and wife are unable to come to terms regarding breastfeeding, whether due to emotional tension, differing expectations, or practical limitations, Allah the Exalted permits the father to appoint another woman to breastfeed the child. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 6.
But if you are in discord, then there may breastfeed for the father another woman.
This option prevents prolonged conflict and ensures that the child's needs are met without placing undue pressure on the mother. It also protects the mother from being coerced into breastfeeding when she is unwilling or unable to do so, while ensuring that the father fulfills his responsibility to provide appropriate care for the child. At the same time, it prevents the father from using this option as a means of harm or retaliation, because the earlier part of the verse obligates him to act in an acceptable way, meaning with fairness, compassion, and justice. Together, these commands demonstrate the comprehensive nature of divine guidance. They ensure that even during emotionally charged moments, such as divorce, pregnancy, and early childcare, decisions are made with balance, consultation, and respect. They also show that Allah, the Exalted, protects the vulnerable, prevents exploitation, and ensures that the rights of all parties are upheld. This approach transforms potentially chaotic situations into structured, dignified processes that preserve harmony and minimize harm. Allah, the Exalted, encourages the husband to fulfill his responsibility of providing for his wife during her waiting period and for his children according to his financial capacity. This reminder removes any sense of burden or fear, as Allah the Exalted never imposes a duty that exceeds a person's ability. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 7.
Let a man of wealth spend from his wealth, and he whose provision is restricted, let him spend from what Allah has given him. Allah does not charge a soul except according to what He has given it.
As Allah, the Exalted, has made obligations proportionate to one's ability, a person cannot justify their shortcomings by claiming they tried their best, when their actions clearly show otherwise. If they were genuinely exerting themselves, they would fulfill the responsibilities that fall within their reach. True effort produces visible results. Therefore, a person must abandon the lazy mentality that hides behind empty claims of effort while failing to act. They must adopt sincerity, discipline, and accountability, knowing that they will be questioned in both worlds and that excuses will not be accepted on the day of judgment. This verse also teaches that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, is never beyond a person's capacity. Every command is tailored to human ability, and every responsibility is matched to one's resources. When a person recognizes this, they stop viewing divine commands as burdens and begin to see them as achievable pathways to stability, dignity, and peace of mind. They also realize that failure to obey is not due to impossibility, but due to unwillingness, negligence, or misplaced priorities. By embracing this mindset, a person strengthens their character, fulfills their duties with clarity, and protects themselves from regret in this world and accountability in the next. It becomes easier to act with justice, compassion, and consistency, because they know that Allah, the Exalted, has only asked from them what they are fully capable of doing. And as long as one remains firm on obeying Allah, the Exalted, He will ensure they journey through each test and difficulty with peace of mind, through obtaining a balanced mental and physical state, and through correctly placing everything and everyone within their life. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 7.
Allah will bring about, after hardship, ease.
Allah, the Exalted, concludes this passage by warning people not to dismiss or overlook His instructions regarding matters that may appear worldly, such as behavior during marital conflict and divorce. He reminds them that true peace of mind and success in both worlds are rooted in obeying Him in every matter, whether worldly or religious, and not merely in performing ritual acts of worship like the obligatory prayers. To emphasize this, he draws attention to the fate of past nations who persisted in disobeying Him across all aspects of life and suffered the consequences of their choices. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verses 8 to 10.
And how many a city was insolent toward the command of its Lord and His messengers, so we took it to severe account, and punished it with a terrible punishment. And it tasted the bad consequence of its affair, and the outcome of its affair was loss. Allah has prepared for them a severe punishment.
This reminder makes clear that disobedience in worldly matters, such as marriage, divorce, business dealings, and social interactions, is not a minor issue. When people ignore divine guidance in these areas, they not only harm themselves by falling into an unbalanced mental and physical state, but they also disrupt the order of their lives, misplacing priorities, relationships, and responsibilities. More importantly, such behavior encourages the spread of injustice and corruption within society. When individuals fail to fulfill the rights of others, whether spouses, children, business partners, or neighbors, society becomes fractured, trust erodes, and oppression spreads. A community that normalizes such behavior becomes deserving of divine punishment, just as past nations were destroyed for their persistent wrongdoing. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 10.
So fear Allah, O you of understanding, who have believed.
This verse calls upon people of insight to recognize that obedience to Allah, the Exalted, must permeate every aspect of life. It is not enough to perform rituals while neglecting justice, compassion, and responsibility in worldly dealings. True understanding lies in realizing that every action, public or private, worldly or religious, falls under divine scrutiny. When a person aligns their behavior with divine guidance in all matters, they protect themselves from inner turmoil, contribute to a just society, and prepare for their accountability on the Day of Judgment. When they neglect these teachings, they harm themselves, destabilize their surroundings, and risk becoming like the nations of the past who were destroyed for their heedlessness. Allah, the Exalted, explains that the way to avoid the downfall of past nations is through embracing the guidance He has revealed. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 10.
Allah has sent down to you a reminder.
Divine revelation is described as a reminder because it does not introduce something foreign to human beings. It calls them back to what their nature already recognizes as true. Islamic teachings resonate with the innate disposition that Allah, the Exalted, has placed within every person. When a code of conduct aligns with human nature, it produces balance, clarity, and stability. When it contradicts that nature, it feels alien and creates inner conflict, confusion, and emotional strain. This is why Islamic teachings feel familiar, even to those encountering them for the first time. Many who embrace Islam after following other religions or lifestyles often describe the experience not as discovering something new, but as returning to something they always sensed. The principles of Islam seem to match what their hearts already believed, even before they studied its details. This is because revelation does not impose an artificial framework on human beings. It restores them to the natural state on which Allah, the Exalted, created all people. Other systems, by contrast, frequently impose expectations that clash with human nature. When people attempt to live according to such systems, they often experience psychological imbalance, dissatisfaction, and a sense of disconnection. These systems may appear appealing on the surface, but they lack the deep harmony that revelation provides. However, This harmony is not always immediately recognized. Prejudice, arrogance, or blind loyalty to inherited traditions can veil the heart from perceiving the alignment between revelation and human nature. When a person approaches Islamic teachings with sincerity and openness, the truth becomes clear. Revelation is not a burden but a reminder, something that awakens what is already within the soul. Divine guidance functions like a mirror and a compass. It reflects the innate truth already present within a person, and it directs them toward a life of balance, tranquility, and purpose. Through this reminder, a person learns to achieve a stable mental and physical state, to place everything and everyone in their rightful place, and to navigate life with clarity. In doing so, they attain peace of mind in this world and prepare themselves for success in the next. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verses 10 to 11.
Allah has sent down to you a reminder, a messenger reciting to you the clear verses of Allah, that he may bring out those who believe and do righteous deeds from darknesses into the light.
This emphasizes that no matter how advanced a civilization becomes, and no matter how much knowledge it accumulates in fields such as psychology, sociology, medicine, or governance, it remains impossible for human beings to produce a code of conduct that perfectly aligns with human nature and accommodates every circumstance individuals or societies may face. Human understanding is limited, constantly evolving, and often contradictory. Even today, humanity continues to discover new aspects of its own existence, such as the functions at different regions of the brain, the complexities of emotional development, and the subtle interplay between physical and mental well-being. If people are still uncovering basic truths about themselves, it is inconceivable that they could formulate a flawless, comprehensive system that guarantees justice, balance, and tranquility for all. Only Allah, the Exalted, can provide such a system. As the creator of all things, His knowledge encompasses the entirety of the past, present, and future. He alone understands every dimension of human nature, every hidden inclination, every societal pattern, and every consequence of every action. Therefore, He alone is qualified to give humanity a code of conduct that distinguishes good from evil, benefit from harm, and stability from chaos. This divine guidance is not merely theoretical. History demonstrates that when it was implemented sincerely, whether in households, communities, or entire societies, it produced justice, harmony, and peace. Individuals found clarity and purpose, families found stability, and societies found fairness and cohesion. For this reason, people must embrace the divine code of conduct, recognizing that it is designed for their benefit even when certain teachings conflict with personal desires. A wise patient accepts the advice of a skilled physician, even if the medicine tastes bitter or the diet feels restrictive, because they trust that the treatment is ultimately for their well-being. In the same way, a person should trust the guidance of Allah, the Exalted, knowing that His instructions lead to balance, tranquility, and success in both worlds. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 11.
And whoever believes in Allah and does righteousness, He will admit him into gardens beneath which rivers flow to abide therein forever. Allah will have perfected for him a provision.
It is important to recognize that the eternal reward described in this verse is reserved for those who support their verbal declaration of faith in Allah, the Exalted, with consistent action. Words alone, when unaccompanied by deeds, carry little weight. Faith is not a static claim, but a living reality that must be nurtured, strengthened, and expressed through obedience. A person may utter the testimony of faith, but if their actions contradict it, the testimony becomes hollow and loses its transformative power. Faith may be likened to a delicate flame that requires continual tending. A fire remains alive only when it is supplied with fuel. If neglected, it gradually weakens until it is extinguished. In the same way, faith thrives when nourished through acts of obedience, remembrance, repentance, and sincere effort. When these are absent, faith begins to fade. The heart becomes dim, the conscience becomes dull, and the spiritual clarity that once guided a person becomes clouded. If this neglect continues, the light of faith may be lost entirely, and such a loss is the most devastating of all, for it deprives a person of the very compass that directs them toward peace in this world and salvation in the next. This understanding highlights why Allah, the Exalted, repeatedly connects belief with righteous action throughout the Holy Quran. True faith manifests in behavior, in choices, in restraint, and in striving. It is not perfection that is required, but sincerity and persistence. A person will inevitably fall short, but as long as they continue to return to Allah, the Exalted, with repentance and renewed effort, their faith remains alive and capable of growth. The danger lies not in stumbling, but in abandoning the path altogether. When a person treats their faith as a living trust that must be cared for, they protect themselves from spiritual decline and ensure that their belief remains vibrant and meaningful. This is the type of faith that leads to the reward described in the verse, faith that is supported by action, illuminated by sincerity, and sustained through continual effort. After urging people to accept and act upon divine guidance for their own benefit, Allah, the Exalted, then directs them to reflect on the creation itself, for it stands as a clear and undeniable proof of His absolute oneness and His right to be obeyed in every circumstance. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 12.
It is Allah who has created 7 heavens and of the earth, the like of them. His command descends among them, so you may know that Allah is over all things competent.
When a person contemplates the heavens, the earth, and the countless perfectly balanced systems that sustain life, it becomes evident that there is only one who created and maintains the universe. The precise distance of the sun from the earth is a striking example, for life would be impossible if the sun were even slightly closer or farther away. Likewise, the earth's atmosphere has been fashioned with a perfect balance of gases, purity, and protective layers, enabling life to flourish in a way that no accidental process could ever replicate. When constructing even a simple building, one must carefully place pillars and supports to ensure stability and safety. Such a structure requires deliberate planning, thoughtful design, and precise execution. If this is true for a modest human-made building, it is irrational to believe that the vast heavens and the expansive earth came into existence by accident. If they had been formed randomly, their structure would be unstable, flawed, and unsafe. Yet what we observe is the opposite, a universe marked by precision, harmony, and order. This alone indicates the deliberate planning of the Creator, Allah, the Exalted. Chapter 13 Ar-Ra'd, verse 2.
It is Allah who erected the heavens without pillars that you can see.
The sun's path ensures that the earth receives a balanced alternation of light and darkness. The length of days and nights, and their gradual changes throughout the year, allow people to benefit from both. If days were significantly longer, people would suffer exhaustion from prolonged activity. If nights were extended, there would be insufficient time for work, learning, and other essential pursuits. If nights were too short, people would not obtain the rest necessary for good health. These changes would also disrupt agriculture, harming crops and threatening the survival of both humans and animals. The perfect harmony of day and night, along with the many other balanced systems in the universe, clearly points to the oneness of Allah, the Exalted. If multiple gods existed, each with different wills, the universe would fall into chaos. Chapter 21 Al-Anbiya, verse 22.
Had there been within them, i.e., the heavens and earth gods besides Allah, they both would have been ruined.
The moon reflects sunlight, providing illumination at night and guiding travelers across deserts and oceans, journeys that remain essential for transporting goods even today. Its phases regulate the tides of seas and oceans, and any disruption in these tides would cause severe environmental damage. Together, the sun and moon allow humanity to measure time with precision, which is indispensable for life on Earth. Their exact placement and balance within the solar system cannot be attributed to chance. They clearly indicate the work of a creator. The land on Earth has also been formed with perfect balance. It is stable enough to build upon, fertile enough to grow crops, and varied enough to support diverse ecosystems. When observing the Earth's landscapes, one notices different altitudes. High-altitude regions are difficult to inhabit due to thin oxygen and challenging terrain. Yet the vast majority of the Earth's surface lies at an optimal altitude that supports human life. Some areas are naturally inaccessible, making it difficult to reach their resources, yet most of the Earth is easily traversable, allowing people to travel, settle, and benefit from its provisions. Moreover, the Earth has been designed so that essential resources are the easiest to access. The more necessary a resource is for human survival, the more readily available it is. Such precision cannot be random. It clearly points to the existence of a creator. The perfectly balanced water cycle also testifies to divine design. Water evaporates from the sea, rises and condenses into acidic rain that falls upon mountains. These mountains neutralize the acidity, making the water safe for people and animals. Any alteration in this delicate system would lead to disaster. The salt in the sea prevents dead creatures from contaminating the water. Without this, marine life would collapse and the resulting impurity would overwhelm life on land. The composition of seawater is so finely balanced that it allows sea life to thrive while enabling heavy ships to float. If the composition was slightly different, either sea life would flourish but ships could not sail, or ships could sail but sea life would perish. Even today, sea transport remains the primary method for moving goods across the world, making this balance essential for human civilization. Rainfall is also perfectly measured. Too little causes drought and famine, while too much causes destructive floods. Chapter 23 Al-Mustminin, verse 18.
And we have sent down rain from the sky in a measured amount and settled it in the earth. And indeed, we are able to take it away.
The winds are equally vital. They enable wind pollination, allowing crops, plants, and trees to reproduce. Historically, wind was essential for sea travel, and even today, maritime transport remains the backbone of global trade. Winds also move rain clouds to where water is needed, sustaining life across the planet. A lack of wind would lead to ecological collapse, while excessive winds would cause destruction. The balance of the winds is yet another sign of deliberate design. Anyone who reflects on these perfectly balanced systems, and countless others, cannot logically deny the existence of a single creator who possesses complete power over all things. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 12.
It is Allah who has created 7 heavens and of the earth, the like of them. His command descends among them, so you may know that Allah is over all things competent.
2 elements are necessary for resurrection and accountability to occur. The first is absolute power and authority, which Allah, the Exalted, has already demonstrated through His creation and control of the universe. The second is complete knowledge of every person's intentions, words, and deeds. Without perfect knowledge, true justice would be impossible. Allah, the Exalted, affirms that He alone possesses this knowledge. Chapter 65 at Talaq, verse 12.
And that Allah has encompassed all things in knowledge.
The Day of Judgment is therefore a necessity, not merely a theological concept. When one reflects on the universe, they observe countless examples of perfect balance. The Earth is positioned at an exact distance from the Sun. Even a slight deviation would render life impossible. The water cycle is so precisely calibrated that it sustains life without fail. Water evaporates, rises, condenses, and returns as rain in a form suitable for human and animal use. The soil is soft enough for delicate shoots to emerge, yet firm enough to support massive structures. These and countless other examples show that balance is woven into every aspect of creation. Yet there is one glaring imbalance in this world: the actions of human beings. Oppressors often escape punishment, while the oppressed frequently endure suffering without receiving justice. Many sincere Muslims face hardship and receive only a small portion of their reward in this life, while those who openly disobey Allah, the Exalted, may enjoy worldly comforts. Since Allah, the Exalted, has established balance in all aspects of creation, the balance of reward and punishment must also be fulfilled. Because this balance does not occur fully in this world, it must occur in another time, the Day of Judgment. Allah, the Exalted, could choose to reward and punish fully in this world, but His wisdom dictates otherwise. One wisdom behind delaying full punishment is that He grants people opportunity after opportunity to repent sincerely and correct their behavior. If punishment were immediate and complete, repentance would be impossible. Similarly, He does not grant believers their full reward in this world because this world is not paradise. Faith requires belief in the unseen, and the promise of reward in the hereafter is part of what makes faith meaningful. If all reward were visible and immediate, belief would be based on sight rather than trust, and the spiritual value of faith would diminish. Fear of full punishment in the hereafter, and hope for complete reward, encourage a person to avoid sin and strive in righteous deeds. These two forces, fear and hope, form the wings of faith, enabling a believer to remain balanced, motivated, and sincere. They remind a person that every action carries weight, and that nothing is lost or forgotten. For the day of recompense to begin, the material world must come to an end. Reward and punishment can only be given once all actions have ceased. As long as people continue to act, the record is still being written. Therefore, the day of judgment cannot occur until the world reaches its appointed end. This necessity alone indicates that the material world is temporary and will inevitably conclude. Reflecting on these realities strengthens one's conviction in the day of judgment. It encourages a person to prepare for it by using the blessings they have been granted in the correct manner, as outlined in the Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Through this preparation, a person attains peace of mind and success in both worlds, achieving a balanced mental and physical state, and placing everything and everyone in their rightful place within their life. Chapter 45 Al-Jatiyah, verse 22.
For Allah created the heavens and the earth for a purpose, so that every soul may be paid back for what it has committed, and none will be wronged.
To conclude, a person must accept and act upon Islamic teachings for their own benefit, even when those teachings oppose personal desires or immediate preferences. This situation can be compared to a wise patient who follows the guidance of a skilled doctor. The patient understands that the doctor's instructions may include bitter medicine, strict dietary restrictions, and uncomfortable lifestyle changes. Even though these instructions may not be pleasant, the patient accepts them because they recognize that the doctor possesses knowledge which they themselves do not. Through patience and discipline, the patient eventually regains strength, balance, and well-being. In the same manner, the person who sincerely accepts and acts upon Islamic teachings ultimately achieves a balanced mental and physical state, and learns to correctly place everything and everyone within their life. The reason this outcome occurs is because the one who created human beings fully understands their nature, needs, weaknesses, and long-term well-being. Allah, the Exalted, alone possesses complete knowledge of the inner and outer condition of people. Human societies, despite centuries of study, research, and philosophical debate, still struggle to fully understand the complexities of human behavior and mental well-being. New theories frequently replace older ones, and solutions that appear effective for some individuals fail to help others. Even the most advanced systems of psychology, medicine, and social sciences cannot guarantee that a person will avoid stress, anxiety, conflict, or confusion about priorities. This limitation exists because human knowledge is restricted by limited experience, limited foresight, and personal biases. In contrast, Allah, the Exalted, possesses complete knowledge of every aspect of creation, including the physical and spiritual dimensions of human beings. Because of this perfect knowledge, He alone can establish guidance that leads to true balance and stability in life. This guidance has been granted to humanity through the Holy Quran and the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. These teachings outline how a person should manage wealth, family relationships, responsibilities, emotions, and social conduct. When a person uses the blessings they have been granted according to this guidance, they naturally begin to experience harmony within their life. They avoid many of the conflicts and confusions that arise when people attempt to construct their own systems of morality, based solely on personal opinion or changing social trends. The truth of this guidance becomes evident when one compares the lives of those who sincerely follow Islamic teachings with those who ignore them. Those who structure their lives around obedience to Allah, the Exalted, generally possess clearer priorities, stronger family relationships, greater emotional stability, and deeper contentment. In contrast, those who constantly pursue personal desires without a stable moral framework experience confusion about purpose, misplaced priorities, and ongoing dissatisfaction, even if they achieve material success. An interesting difference between worldly systems and divine guidance is the way trust is established. In the worldly context, patients often accept medical treatment without fully understanding the scientific details behind it. They trust the doctor because of professional reputation and training. In contrast, Allah the Exalted does not ask people to follow guidance blindly. Instead, He repeatedly encourages reflection, observation, and thoughtful consideration. People are invited to examine the teachings of Islam, reflect upon their wisdom, and observe their beneficial effects within individual lives and societies. This invitation to reflect demonstrates confidence in the truth of the guidance itself. However, this reflection requires a person to approach the teachings of Islam with sincerity and fairness. If someone approaches the guidance with prejudice or a predetermined rejection, they will fail to recognize its wisdom. Only the one who approaches it with an open and unbiased mind will begin to appreciate its depth and clarity. Chapter 12 Yusuf, verse 108.
Say, this is my way, I invite to Allah with insight, I and those who follow me.
Furthermore, true peace of mind ultimately lies within the spiritual heart of a person, and this heart is fully under the control of Allah, the Exalted. Human beings may attempt to pursue happiness through wealth, status, entertainment, or social recognition, yet none of these can guarantee lasting peace within the heart. Only the Creator of the heart has the authority to grant this inner tranquility. Chapter 53 and Najm, verse 43.
And that it is He who makes one laugh and weep.
When this reality is understood, it becomes clear that true peace of mind is not achieved simply through worldly success or comfort. Rather, it is granted by Allah the Exalted to those who use the blessings He has given them in the correct manner. When a person fulfills their responsibilities, avoids what has been prohibited, and faces the circumstances of life with patience according to the traditions of the Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, they align their life with the wisdom of their Creator. Through this alignment, they gradually experience balance, clarity of purpose, and inner tranquility. In this way, obedience to Allah, the Exalted, becomes the true path to lasting peace and success in both worlds. Chapter 16 and Nahl, verse 97.
Whoever does righteousness, whether male or female, while he is a believer, we will surely cause him to live a good life, and we will surely give them their reward in the hereafter according to the best of what they used to do.
All praise is due to Allah, Lord of the worlds, and may peace and blessings be upon His final messenger, Muhammad, his noble family and companions.